What's up, fight fans? Back at it with another one here at Round One Sports Talk. We're going to be getting into the Gervonta Tank Davis fight with Hector Luis Garcia. We're going to talk about and break down the card, and at the same time talk about boxing. So, without further ado, please let's get into this video. All right, if you haven't noticed yet, I've been nursing a cold. I've been bedridden for like the last 3 to 4 days, and the fight's here, so I wanted to make a video on it. Now, as leading up to this fight, and by the way, I want to mention that I'm trying to currently get microphones and better cameras so that I can bring you better content. Okay, um, but leading up to this fight, uh, I couldn't help but notice that there's a lot of YouTube channels and their narrative and their storyline is typically the same. They always want to exploit boxing and point out all the bad things behind the scenes and politic and the PBC and what promotion companies doing that. Well, that's not what boxing's about. Boxing's about the fighters. And if you want to talk about boxing and the fighters, you're at the right place. We're gonna leave all the politics and all that for those other channels. They can cover that. We know it's there, and I get it, okay? But at some point you're putting down boxing. You have to realize that. You just can't keep making videos and just keep downing boxing repeatedly. You know, uh, I want to talk about the fighters. So Gervonta Tank Davis is fighting Hector Luis Garcia. Gervonta Tank Davis is 27 fights, 25 big ways by knockout. Okay, he's 5'5". Okay, he is currently the 130 and 135-pound champions right now. He has the interim champion at 135 pounds. That is not recognized as a world title. Okay, Hector Luis Garcia, 16 fights, 10 knockouts. At 130 pounds, he has the Super WBA championship. That is a world title. So tonight's going to look to be very interesting. And like I said, there's a lot of politics and, popularity contests in boxing as is. Um, could anybody explain to me how did Jerron Boots Ennis get to the co-main event of this fight over Demetrius Andre? Demetrius Andre is a real world champion. As a matter of fact, he's an undefeated real world champion. He's currently moving up in weight tonight, right? And, you know, look, Jerron Boots Ennis is a phenom. He has everything I would want in a fighter. He's showing good potential, good promise, okay? But if I was looking at it as in a boxer's accomplishments and not a popularity contest, Jerron Boots Ennis has never fought for a world title. He's never owned a world title. So how are you going to put him in front of an undefeated world champion? Okay? And this is how some of these things happen. Demetrius Anjay has not been, he's been out of the ring. He hasn't been active. 15 months. We talked about that in other videos. Out of sight, out of mind. Okay? Now, I can also understand and look at it as, well, maybe they already had Jerron Boots Ennis on the Gervonta card. Like they already gave him the co-main event. So in his head, he already had the co-main event. And maybe a week later, Demetrius Andre agreed to fight on this card. Because from what I'm being told, they did offer him another fight on another card. It wasn't going to be as big as this card with all these fighters on it. So I can see how he took it to open up the night. On the main event card, Andre is going to open up the card. So, I could see it like that. But, you know, as a champion and an undefeated world champion, I would like my respect too, and if you were a champion that didn't put fans in the seats and you didn't sell a lot of tickets, that could be a problem. And I could see where that they would favor the more popular fighter, you know? So, hey, that's boxing politics, right? Let them figure it out. But at the same time, I love boxing. I love the purity of the sport. I love talking about the sport. I don't like all the time exposing boxing because, you know, when we do this, we have to keep in mind we are putting down the sport. It turns people off by knowing, well, oh, then these fights can never happen, or these. No, no, no. I want you to keep in mind in the forefront. If fighters want to fight, they will fight. Point, point blank. Okay. There have been numerous of times where that fighters, um, for instance, Floyd Mayweather ran up on Manny Pacquiao at that basketball game or whatever it was, and he was like, "Listen, let's take the politics all out of this and let's make this fight happen." And then the fight finally got to happen. You know, 5 years too late, but it finally got to happen. Um, there's been, you know, numerous situations where the two champions has expressed themselves and saying, "Yo, we gonna make this fight happen." But when you got all the politics in the back of everything, and everybody wants to get their greedy little hands in every little dime, that's where some of these things can play out differently, you know. But tonight in the ring with Javante Tank Davis, I believe there were a lot of distractions in his fight camp. The arrests, it's all over social media. We all know about it. Um, which brings it to the forefront of my mind is, well, why do you bring your girlfriend and your baby to your fight camp? Fighters leave home to focus on fight camp before that they can get away all the distractions. That's why we go to fight camp, because we don't want to focus on anything, all outside world stuff. We just want to focus on our training and the fight and our game plan. Having her there, as you can see, that didn't work out for him. And as a man's perspective, the only reason why I would bring my girlfriend to fight camp is because I don't trust her to leave her at home by herself. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of from just a man's perspective. And if that's the case, and that's to be true, bro, you might want to. Anyway, that has nothing to do with boxing. But, um, in a fight when you're boxing and you're in the ring, you do not want to be in certain situations in the fight. You do not want to be in the situation where that you have completely unloaded your entire arsenal onto this guy and you have made yourself vulnerable and fatigued to the point where that you can't even raise your hand and block what he's coming in. He's turned you into a retreating fighter. Now you're just going backwards because you weren't able to identify you really didn't have him hurt. And when you maybe in the fight you might have dropped him, got a flash knockdown, and then you pressured him. You ran up to him and you started throwing all these punches. But as a fighter, it's up to you to recognize that maybe these punches are not landing. Let me push back, reset, start over. Okay? And that's what you go over these drills and these situations in fight camp. So another place you don't want to be is that you don't want to become to be turned into a one punch fighter, where that in the fight you've exchanged with him, but for some reason you didn't you knew he was faster than you, right? And on the first few exchanges, but you kept being hard headed and you kept trying to punch with him, and he's hurting you and he's got you hurt, but you don't want to let him see that, right? So what ends up happening is that that fighter just turns you into a one punch fighter. What you're doing is You're no longer, the game plan's out the window at this point, and you're not gonna throw out the jab because you don't got the strength. All you have left is hoping that he makes a mistake, come in, and you hit him with that one shot. That's all you're doing. You're faking a couple flinches, and you keep trying to hit him. If you don't hit him, you just grab him up. He turns you into a one punch fighter. Okay, so these are certain situations you do not want to be in the ring. And the last thing that I believe that is the most important thing, okay, you cannot let doubt start to creep into your head as a fighter. No kind of doubt. Don't think for your fighter. Don't say, man, this guy's faster than me. No, you recognized it. I recognize he's faster than me. That's a different. Don't keep thinking about how fast he gonna knock you out. He's too good. You're building him up in your head. No, you have to embrace this as a fighter. You have to embrace the fact that they're gonna be guys that are faster than you. They're gonna be guys that are stronger than you. That doesn't make them better fighters than you. Okay? It doesn't mean just because it means you have to recognize in those key situations, in those moments, that you gotta switch it up. Maybe if I was standing in front of him and I was just moving and I was punching with him, he's too fast. So the next round, I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna dart around, grab him, rough him up, throw him against the ropes, head to the body, do kind of like a Mike Tyson style, up and dodging the wing, throwing bolo punches. I've already recognized you're too fast for me. I'm not gonna sit there and go jab for jab with you. I'm not gonna sit there and try to counter you because you're gonna beat me to the punch every time. And as the fight goes on longer, you have to keep in mind, it's not like you're getting stronger or, some fighters, special fighters, they're strong at the later rounds. But if you really pay attention to that fight, they pace themselves to do that. You know, excuse me, all this cold is beating me up. So what they're doing is they're pacing themselves so that you fatigue yourself, you be that much tired, so that when they open it up, so in their training camp, they really didn't start fighting until the sixth round. That's when they start to open it up. And you're like looking at the guy saying, how is this guy faster or stronger in the eighth round? They prepared themselves for that. That was their moment. That was their game plan. That was what they intended on doing so. They wanted the fight to be a certain way. For case in point, I wanted to look up someone that fought Gervonta Davis. Now let's just keep in mind everyone's taller than Gervonta Davis. I said Pitbull Cruz. Now, Gervonta Davis fought Mario Barrio. And in that fight, I wanted to watch the fight, to take away, but I'm a different kind of fighter. I think of different stuff. I don't know, you know. But I couldn't help but notice Mario Barrios' corner is the same corner that's coaching Hector Luis Garcia tonight. They have the same trainers, right? When I look and I noticed that, I was like, wow, wait a minute. Now, Kate, look, Mario Barrios and Hector are not the same fighter, right? But it's one thing to spar against Tank Davis. It's one thing to buy a ticket and sit there and watch him. But it's another thing to go up against him. Now, everything he was doing that night, have you ever been in a situation where that you were standing outside of the situation and you were able to see everything more clearly rather than being in the fire? Okay? Sometimes you got to step back to get a better broad picture of what's going on. And that's what the coaches are doing. They have a different perspective. They're viewing the fight from different eyes. That's very important. Okay? So they're getting another shot at Gervonta Tank Davis tonight. Okay? And look, I know that Hector and Mario Barrios are not the same fighter. Okay? But when you're preparing and building a game plan, that's what your coaches are doing. And it's very interesting for me when I noticed that and I said, wait a minute, Hector and his team are getting another crack at Javante Davis. Okay? Which Javante Davis should be coming into the ring tonight a better version of himself. Every time you see your fighter, we should be seeing a better version of that fighter. Let's see what wrinkles and tools Javante implemented in his game plan. Because when we sit back and we think about this, I can't judge Javante Davis of how he fought Mario Barrio. Because if I'm not mistaken, Mario Barrio by the seventh, eighth round, he was winning that fight. Mario Barrios was winning that fight. But Javante's state of mind was different. He was fighting him different, and I understand that. He wasn't fighting Mario Barrios on a point system. Shane Davis is waiting to knock him out. That's all he was doing. Okay? He wasn't going blow for him. He wasn't worrying about the points. He wasn't worried what he already had it in his mind. You can tell. He was gonna knock out Mario Barrio in the later rounds. And it looked like that's what he was gonna, and he sure enough, that's what he did. So, you know, when we look at the card tonight, it's very interesting because Jerron Boots Ennis is going to make appearance tonight. You know, and he's one of the most highly talked about prospects in all of boxing right now. Everybody's considering him to be that phenom, and which I am agree. I agree. I agree with all that. If I had a fighter and right now, and I can get to pick a few fighters, like if you gave me 5, 10 fighters, Jerron Bruce Ennis would be one of the fighters I pick. Absolutely. Okay. But, boxing and fans, we have a tendency of boosting up our fighter bigger sometimes than what he or she is. Okay. I understand Jerome Bruce Ennis is a highly talented phenom that is knocking everybody out. But unfortunately, he's never fought for a world title. He's never owned a world title. Okay? He's fighting for tonight for the interim title tonight. Shall he be successful tonight, he would inherit the interim. But the interim title is not recognized as a world title in boxing. It's not recognized the uh, as a major sanctioning body. So um, he will be putting himself in position to do so. And I just hope to see we can talk about this on the next video to see when if he should be successful, what Javante Davis is going to do after this fight with Ryan Garcia. If he is successful, I would like to hear your comments just before the fight. I'll see if I can just drop one more video. That's what I have for you tonight. Peace. On to the next one.